Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Dai-Shihan Miller here from Warrior Concepts. We're here with this week's Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. I apologize, we're running a little bit late. There have been fire trucks moving around here and something strange going on really close to the dojo. Not on top of it, I don't need a third fire in, 3.5 years, give or take, right? We already got displaced over here just a couple months ago. So anyway, we're going to keep on keeping on, and hopefully nobody comes banging on the doors and tells me to get the hell out. All right, so that being said, again, I already introduced myself, right? So today's focus is going to be strategic and timing-based logic for real escapes. And what we're looking at is beating so-called unbeatable techniques, right? How to escape locks, holds, throws, that kind of thing, right? Ninja style. So I know this is going to be a challenge to some folks because we might hold on to some of these beliefs, right? It's going to be a challenge because some, hopefully not you, are holding on to, consciously or subconsciously. They're either training under or they've got this belief that, well, let me give you an example, right? Have you ever heard someone use a phrase like this? Or have you ever been told there's no escape from that position, right? Or this technique is unbeatable. I'll share a little quote that one of my teachers used to use when somebody would use that term. I got a move you can't get out of, kind of thing, right? Or even like once the lock is in, you're done. Okay, we're going to talk about where that comes from and what makes it true, what makes it questionable. Okay, but we'll take a look at that. Okay, so again, we're going to shatter that idea, not with strength, not with magic, right? But with strategy, with timing, with fight logic, and something that's been a part of our theme for this week, nintai, right? Enduring, persevering. Nintai, that's the common Japanese person's thing. We think of that as nin, right? The original Chinese. The Japanese say nintai. The nin kanji to them means either patience or more of a stealthy kind of thing, right? It's a different viewpoint. Nintai, tai is not body in this case, right? Means what we think of when we think of enduring, persevering, overcoming, that kind of thing. To us, nintai is, in Hatsumi Sensei's words, enduring the unendurable. Okay? Going where most people can't or won't. All right? So, real endurance, right? Driven by self-control, not by, I don't know, just toughing it out or being stupid and just jumping into things you probably shouldn't, those kind of things, right? So again, as always, Whiteboard Wednesday, this is tactical. This is strategic, right? No dancing monkey here. No physical demonstration session. What's important is that you bring your mind, okay? Because for a ninja, that's where escapes or any technique first starts, okay? That's where it begins, right? So let's start with a problem, right? Reasons that escapes fail, or people think that those phrases that I gave, right? There are unbeatable techniques. There are whatever. Okay, where do they come from? Okay, so where does this trap even get started? Right. So again, most people don't fail, or they don't fail to escape bad situations, locks, holds, whatever, because they're weak, right? Or even because their attacker is better than them, right? Even if that's what it looks like, right? They fail because their training, their mindset or belief system, or both, has gaps. Okay, they're missing perspective, they're missing knowledge, they're missing options, those kind of things, right? So here's several common reasons that students and even those who become instructors, right, never develop true escape ability from this context. Okay, from this context. Right. First is they collect techniques. There he goes again, talking about technique collectors, right? You have to learn techniques. Yeah, you have to learn techniques. Okay, but it's not about collecting techniques. It's they collect techniques, but they don't learn the timing or the purpose and like strategic reasoning that drives that technique, that makes that technique uh, what it is, right? Why it works. Because remember, the kata are just examples of potentials in a battle, right? So they collect techniques without learning key pieces, right? The important stuff, okay? Number two, right? They mistake pain for danger. Okay, to them, uh, yeah. Oops, sorry, not mistake. Pain, right? That's a doesn't equal danger. Okay, it's not that it's not right, but what they're doing is they're focusing on win lose over survival. Okay, and what I mean by that is they're stuck in a competitive mindset. Okay, too much pain, right? We tap out, itai, itai, itai. Okay, the bad guy didn't give a shit about it. Your uke does, safety in the dojo does, but your bad guy doesn't. Okay, doesn't he wants it to hurt? He wants things to break. Okay, but do we understand the 5 or 6 different types of pain? Do we understand the 2 types that are actually dangerous? Something's going to break, right? Or something's going to shut down, and how that differs from these other things, right? Or does pain simply mean I need to submit? I need to stop. Right? A lot of people stop exercising and whatnot because it hurts, right? Some of my family a bunch of years ago bought a treadmill and stuff, and then said they used it like once or twice, and they just like hurt afterwards, right? And nothing that hurts should it could possibly be good for you, right? So they stopped. Okay? But the hurt they were probably feeling wasn't that sharp stabbing or burning pain that signals something's wrong, something's going to break, right? It's probably that ache recovery pain that is necessary to trigger the body's system to rebuild things. Okay, but again, there's this caged win, lose, submit. I can fight another day, kind of thing, right? Survival doesn't work that way. Okay. Number 3, they only practice with an eye on the end of the move, right? So the focus is on the end, right? The lock, the hold, whatever it is. That's the symbol of success or the indicator of success. What we're talking about today that's is if that's what we're trying to get out of, and we're in a sport mindset, and it's all about the physical technique, yeah, then maybe there really are unbeatable techniques. But what if that mindset's wrong? Huh? Uh, I was just going to do 3 today, but I decided to throw a 4th one on here at the end, right? They forget that this is ninjutsu. Ninjutsu versus fighting. But ninjutsu is a style of fighting. No, it isn't. Ninjutsu is a mindset. Ninjutsu is a capability. Jutsu, method, ways, skills for nin, enduring, persevering, surviving, overcoming odds. Okay, disadvantage. Uh, it's not sport fighting. Okay, Nagato Sensei, in one of his classes, said, you can win doing just about anything, right? But don't confuse uh, correct taijutsu or what we're teaching with just fighting. Right? Everybody can fight to some degree, right? But if we just, if we're, and again, the focus is always like beating that, beating that, beating that. But we're going to take a look at a timeline here shortly and take a look at the fact that we have 6 opportunities when the bad guy or opponent is executing a lock, hold, or a throw to beat it. Not one, not once it's on, but even once it's on and it seems unbeatable, Hatsumi Sensei gave us one for that one too. All right. So again, if you're only focused on the final lock or the finishing throw, then you're skipping the real windows that undo the technique. You don't have to like pry apart a shitty knot in a piece of string or waste it because you end up cutting things away. If you understand how the knot is created and where in the sequence you can make sure you don't end up with a granny knot and you end up with a knot that's easily undone with 1 or 2 moves. Okay? So if you're getting value out of these things, my guys keep reminding me, right? Like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, right? All right. So let's keep going, right? So just so that you're clear that this isn't my invention or Jeff's idea or whatever, okay? This is baked into the DNA of the Takamatsu Den arts, right? The things that Hatsumi Sensei inherited from Takamatsu Sensei, right? And these different lineages that we have, right? So I don't have Roman here to list them down, but Shinden Furoryu, right? It's in the Daken Taijutsu and especially in the Jutaijutsu, right? We have 2 branches, 2 sides to Shinden Furoryu. It's in the Takagi Yoshin Ryu and even the Gyoko Ryu 0-point concept, which is the focus for our Daikomyosai New Year's training that's going to happen in January. All of these things point to the same thing. Okay, the old masters didn't design 30 different escapes, right? They taught you how to see the phases of an attack and the points for escape at the right moment, right? Through the examples that we call kata. When you understand that timing and space, right? When you understand timing and space, when you understand the timing and the space that happens, that allows for these things to happen, right? Then the unbeatable, right? What most people think of as unbeatable becomes very beatable. Okay. Now, does this mean that you can beat everything? No, of course not. Right? Can you survive everything? No, of course not. Right? Not everything is survivable. Right? And that's one of the first things that we have to understand as warriors. Okay? A lot of folks get involved in martial arts with this belief that they're going to end up coming out on the other end indestructible. Not with this human body. Okay? But what we can do is learn to be harder to break, harder to defeat, right? Harder to shut down. Okay. So, but again, that doesn't mean just because we're not indestructible, that doesn't mean that we assume defeat or we comply as soon as things get uncomfortable or painful or they seem overwhelming, right? That's why we have things like Fudoshin, Heijoshin, right? And other internal mental and emotional regulation and control skills. Okay. It's not just physical fight techniques, right? So just as a related but side note, it's also why we don't get involved in pissing and tough guy contests. Okay. A ninja has no need to win. Okay. Let alone make the mistake of showing potential attackers their secrets every time we get into a fight. And that could be an argument. That could be emotional, stress related, right? It could be an actual physical kind of thing. Every time we do that, we show that person and everybody that's watching in real time through the video cameras and whatnot what our preferences are, what our secrets are, what our strengths and weaknesses are. Most people don't think about it, but what they should think about is they should be happy that probably 95% of people can't read those things. Right? So what you can do is often more about how you think, how resilient and committed you are, and your ability to see opportunities that others don't. Right? It's more about that than how many techniques you're good at. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at 5 core teachings or lessons for escaping lock holds and throws. Right. So 5 key points. Okay. And again, near the end, as I was putting my notes together, like shit. Right. So throw another one in here. I just separated it out. But all right, 5 core teachings. So if you're taking notes, write these down. Okay. And even if you think you know them, write them down, explore them. Okay. Part of the training is uncovering false assumptions about what we think we know. The reason I still go to Japan and put myself in front of people that are my rank and higher is because they're better than I am. Okay. It doesn't matter what the rank is. They started 20 years before me, whatever. Right. I live here and I go back and forth to Japan on a regular basis, but they live there and have trained with Hatsumi Sensei since they were teenagers. Yeah, right. I go not to be told that I'm right, not to get rank, all those kind of things. I go to fill up notebooks full of no's, full of fixes, okay, full of things that will fix false assumptions, mistakes that, yeah, they're working in the dojo. Yes, they've even worked on the street and whatnot. But against somebody who knows what to look for and somebody who is way better than me, who can exploit mistakes that either I don't know I'm making or it's good enough for the average person. Yeah, no, I want those uncovered. Okay. So, again, write them down, screenshot them, whatever. Okay. These are the pillars of real world reversal ability. And that's what we're talking about, right? Gyakuwaza, the ability to reverse something, okay, to turn it around, right? So, first of all, I had it over here, right? Pain does not equal injury. So, what is pain? Pain is data, pain is information. If we understand that pain triggers a flinch response, and that flinch response makes my body or body part go 180 degrees away from that pain or force, then I understand what makes a good technique work, just like that knot analogy. I understand what makes it work. Okay. So Fudoshin, response management, those kind of things that allow me to stay calm, relaxed, those kind of things, and not trigger certain things, or to know what's going to happen and be able to neutralize that before it becomes a problem. That changes everything. All right. So pain is data. It's information. Okay. 2, escapes don't happen anytime, right? They happen in windows of opportunity. Okay. Windows of, I'm getting lazy here, in windows of opportunity. Okay. So there is a common phrase within Japanese martial arts or just anything where there's a contest or there's opposition. Okay. Chikara kurabe, right? Chikara kurabe. It means like, let's see what happens. It implies a contest or a test. Okay. And within martial arts context or military engagement, it implies brute force against brute force. Okay. So for most people, when they think about escaping, right, they think about resistance and application of force, hoping that they can muscle their way out. Okay, they can muscle their way out, or they try to snake their way out. But again, it's arbitrary. Okay, escapes don't just happen anytime. There are key windows of opportunity. Okay, number 3, movement and alignment beat muscle every time. Okay, movement and alignment beat that muscle that we were talking about. Okay? Ninjutsu is about overcoming overwhelming odds, surviving in situations where you're not supposed to survive. Okay? So if our focus is on brute strength or conventional muscle resistance, being stronger than him, right? Then how do I deal with somebody who, by their very nature and build, is bigger and stronger than me? Or their limbs are longer, so they beat me on the leverage game, right? Or they're smaller, thinner, and wiry, and they beat me on the speed or, you know, weasel-like nature kind of thing, right? How do I beat that? Okay. Ninjutsu is about being able to beat those things without being more of those things. Okay. 4, tension is a tool. Okay. I know we say relax a lot because most people come to the dojo is a tool way too tense. Okay. So we always say relax, but taijutsu is actually a process of managing tension and relaxation. Okay. So tension is a tool. We're looking to use our attacker's commitment against them, but there are also times when judicious tension is actually the key, and I'll talk about that in a minute. All right. Next, ukemi is not a loss. A lot of people learn breakfalls as ways to save themselves from a good technique. Ukemi is not a loss. You know what I mean? Just like up here, does not equal loss. The problem with contests and games and having that kind of mentality is the person who hits the floor, the other person gets the point. Right? But just because we're taken down doesn't mean the fight's over. Right? So ukemi is a survival position that creates new options. Right? Even in ancient Japan, samurai armor, study those things, right? Same thing with clothing and whatnot today. We have wintertime coming up here pretty soon, which means clothing is going to get thicker, coats, boots, gloves, those kind of things. Natural armor, right? And so think about this. If I get taken to the ground and I end up taking ukemi, right? Maybe I'm in, Asuka no Kamae. So I'm in this leg defense position. So I'm on my back, my hands and feet are up. And now, like, all of his targets are above me or at that level. I have access to the small bones of the feet and ankles. I have access to his knees. I have access to his groin and hip joints and whatnot. And he has to navigate that, escape from that, or try to deal with me from this very different position. Okay? Yeah, but sensei, if he goes to the ground too, and now you're ground fighting, not fighting the ground, I'm using the ground as my ally. Right? Very different things. Okay, so ukemi is not a loss. Okay, well, it's a break fall. No, it's a tactical repositioning. Okay, there's a difference between thinking of things in the terms of ukemi as in the way most martial arts, judo, jiu-jitsu, whatever, you're taken down, you save yourself, he gets the point, we start again, that kind of thing, and thinking of sutemi, sacrificing body, right? I'm giving up a bad position for a better one, okay? Ryusuiki, right? Water willow entering, right? Flowing with and adapting to. Wind blows, whatever, right? It's just, there's this flexibility. If you don't understand what a willow tree is like, then it's all the difference, right? So, um, just pause here for a second. That one about pain, right? Where was it? Pain, injury, right? It's not injury, it's data, right? That's huge. Okay, that's huge, right? If you avoid pain instead of reading it, you'll always be late in the escape, or you'll always be an accomplice to your own ass kicking. Okay, we are naturally wired from birth to be attracted to pleasure and resist or try to run away from pain. Okay? But the training isn't just about learning physical techniques. It's also about conditioning ourselves to different levels of pain so that we're not affected by it as much. Right? So, again, if we're worrying about winning, worried about losing, worried about pain, all that kind of stuff, then we're not paying attention to what's happening. We're trying to avoid unpleasant consequences. All right. So let's talk about this bonus one here that I decided to throw on. Okay. Everybody knows it if you've been around the Bujinkan for a while, right? Kyojitsu tenkan-hō. I'm just going to abbreviate it. Kyojitsu tenkan-hō. KTH. Right? Kyojitsu tenkan is the juxtapositioning of truth and falsehood. Present one thing as true so that he buys it and then pull that reality out from under his feet. Right? It's like a magician's misdirection. Okay. So here's the principle that most never train deeply enough. And as long as we think of Kyojitsu tenkan-hō as trickery, as deception, and not strategy, which is what Takamasa Sensei always pointed to. He flat out said, Kyojitsu tenkan is not trickery for the sake of trickery. It's strategy. Okay? So, again, the idea of switching truth and falsehood, right? We give the attacker exactly what they expect. This is what's important, right? It's not like, oh, look over here so I can punch you over here, okay? That's adolescent. That's teenage trickery bullshit. Because if he doesn't see this or doesn't go for it, and you go to throw that, he's going to use it against you. Or while you're busy doing that, you get punched. Or these guys that do a little pigeon thing, take the shot, right? I hope most of them get punched in the face. Anyway, all right. So in Kyojitsu Tenkan, we give them what they want, what they expect to get. Okay? Then we switch. At the moment their belief about your position, pain tolerance, or resistance locks them into their own trap. They trap themselves. We're not trapping them. Spectators in a magic show have to suspend the disbelief in magic to be entertained by a magic show. Okay? So here's an example. And we may work on this for the Friday class where we're focusing on just wrist locks, okay? So let's say somebody gets me in this takeyori kind of thing, right? So it's just where the wrist is folded kind of thing, right? It could be down this way. It could be in lots of other positions. And if you're not in the Bujinkan or Ninjutsu or one of these arts where you know this is takeyori, you may know it as a gooseneck come along. You may know it as a wrist fold or shear, whatever, right? It's where this kind of thing is happening, right? So if an attacker is good at applying that and they've done it a lot, then they have a general or specific sense about the average flexibility of their opponents or people that just generally for people, right? They have that, okay? They know what it looks like. They know what it feels like, that kind of thing, right? But if my range of flexibility is greater than that, great. But if I don't understand that little piece between what I'm capable of doing and what they expect as a capability, I miss a really good opportunity to escape. Okay? So just because, did your mom ever tell you, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Just because my range of motion is that big, right? And often it protects us from, excess damage and things like that. It gives us farther to go, right? Before things lock. Awesome stuff, right? But what if we didn't risk being taken to the edge anyway, right? What if, because I know where the average range is, as he's applying it, right, I use that judicious sense of tension and I tense. There's no pain in my wrist right now because I can go that far, okay? But right where most people would go, I come up with my tongue, fuck, right? And I act out hensujutsu, disguise and impersonation, right? I act out what someone looks like when this is full on and working, okay? And then from right here, I relax for a quick second, and it slips because he's going to change certain things about what he does because of his belief that he has it, okay? And then when I slip it, he's going to lose it for that microsecond, and that's my way out. Okay? It gives me a moment in time that as soon as I relax, I gain my wrist back, right? I gain that space and that time that I can take that away from him. All because instead of using my full capability, I created a reality based on what he believes. That's where most people go. I'm jumping around like a bird on, hot coals or whatever. Must be working. But I have play, I give. And now it's just a matter of relaxing into it. That can be done with any of the joint locks. Okay? So again, that's what we're talking about, right? So that's not strength. That's not resistance, right? That's timing. Right? That's timing. Writing all over myself here. Giving myself little spots. All right. So what's my next thought? Let's take a look at this 6-stage, 6-phase, whatever, escape timing timeline. We're going to look at a timeline. I'm going to borrow a technique. Shinden Furoryu Jutaijutsu. I think this is in the Jutaijutsu. Nichigeki. Okay? Nichigeki. Moon in the water. Right? Normally, the way it's taught in the Daken Taijutsu is the attacker steps in to catch with seonage or any kind of front throw. And what I do is I sink and I do a shakoken, pop to the hip, kidney region, whatever, to destabilize that. And then I slip around and execute this throw and whatnot, okay? But the way I was taught it was, here's this base model, right? And you can start on either end, okay? But here's this moment in time, okay? And then, here's the model. And then I was given 3, 4 waza, right? In Shinden Furoryu, they're not called henka, they're called waza, actions, okay? Sometimes they look different than the original model because what it's pointing to are the principles and concepts, not the form. In other cases, like this one, it's a timeline, okay? So take a look at that as we go through to give you a better idea of what we're looking at, okay? So again, this should be the biggest aha moment or breakthrough, but something else might have caught your attention anyway, right? Most people only train the lock or the throw or whatever because, again, they're forward focused on the end result. Okay? Not just the person who's doing it, but also the uke who's receiving it. Okay? So if I'm resisting it, I'm resisting being taken down or whatever. Okay? Instead of letting it happen and picking up at the moment I recognize an opportunity and then I'm able to go. It's kind of like the Saki test. Okay? The Saki test, the 5th dan test, right? It's not just about avoiding the sword. Saki test has 2 core abilities that are required to pass it. Luck notwithstanding, because it is possible to pass based on luck. If you've ever watched Tatsumi Sensei's face, when people are passing a test, you will know when he calls it good and when he is surprised because they kind of lucked out and passed, or because the person who's giving the test pulled short and this person happened to move at the right time. And just listen to inflection, watch his eyes. So anyway, teacher's always teaching. Okay. So biggest breakthrough, right? Most people only train the lock, not the stages before it or after it. Okay. Just like self-defense. in our 8 phases model or framework for effective strategic self-defense, most people focus on what we consider to be phase 6, physical defense. But there are 2 de-escalation phases before that. There's an escape to safety before that. There's awareness of situation and surroundings before that. There's general awareness about what kind of assaults and attacks are more common in our world where I live today. And then after phase 6, there's post-incident recovery, which could be PTSD recovery. It could be having to deal with maybe not my PTSD, but friends or family who they saw the monster come out and now they're all weirded out about it, right? And I have to try to fix family dynamics, right? And phase 8 is dealing with the legal system, right? But people tend to box themselves into that one thing when really there are way more opportunities to defend ourselves and to neutralize this situation before we run the risk of everything going to shit, no matter how much we know at phase 6. Ninja try to avoid phase 6 because there's the greatest chance of things going wrong. I know we all fantasize about wiping the floor with people's asses and stuff, but we never think about having to defend ourselves against 3, 5, 10 guys trying to ass rape us in the prison shower room because we lost in court. Or their friends and family coming back after me and my family because in my I won kind of thing and my face gets plastered on the newspaper and my address gets out there because police reports are public knowledge. Next thing you know, a midnight visit for more people than I can handle. Okay. But I got these. And then if I do have to do this, I have to realize that there's 2 other potential attackers after the bad guys. One is my own system or family network backfiring on me. And the second one is the law. I'd rather be tried by 6 than carried by 12. I don't know. Once you go through the freaking legal system, because if you don't understand trial science and how that jury is being selected, right, and how they're going to their sensitivities and fears and belief systems are going to be played on, you might wish you were carried by 6. Okay. Anyway, so let's take a look at this 6-phase timeline. The first one, okay, is pre-contact. Pre-contact. In the actual Japanese written descriptions of the kata, more often than not, right? Not the English language translations that start with uke tsuki or uke eri jime or whatever, right? Don't start there, right? Aite gata, right? He's doing something to position, right? He might be trying to enter, but what I'm paying attention to is his intent. What is he trying to position for? Right? How is his posture set up? Right? Is he posturing like a grappler? Is he posturing like a boxer? Is he posturing like they're all different, right? Okay. So pre-contact intent, right? So this gives me like a sen no sen opportunity, ability to pick up on his intent and position myself. Because if I'm never positioned for him to do his cool throw or for him to do that shoot fighter takedown, or he has to overextend and it gives me time to bring a knee up into his face, I don't have to worry about a lock. I don't have to worry about a throw. Okay. Next one is the initial contact, the initial contact, but it's the grip as he's starting to grab. Okay? There is a difference in time between the hand coming to things and the grip being seized. And then there's something that comes after that. Okay. So all of these things are phases. There's stages. There's multiple things going on in here. It's not just a step-by-step robotic kind of thing. Okay. So what we're paying attention to here is early micro movements, on my part, breaks his control, right? If he reaches out to grab, his brain has made a calculation as to how far he needs to go, where the target is. So as he reaches in to grab, if I shift a little bit or I shift right laterally, he kind of almost catches it, or he catches it in a different place, then will work well for him. Okay? Next one is, we can call it dori, catching, seizing, that kind of thing. What we're talking about here is kuzushi, right? His initial movement or his attempt to break my balance, right? So this is kuzushi, bless you, dori, which is catching, seizing, taking, right? He's trying to break my balance. Okay? He's trying to break my balance. Okay, so I need to disrupt his structure. That's what Nichigeki does, right? He steps in, he's entered, he got that far, he turns to start to catch me, right? Seunage is over the back carry, right? So he goes to do that. As he steps in to catch it, I shift and break his structure. So he can tug all day long. His frame isn't set up for that. Okay, so that's it. Next one is mid-lock or mid-throw. Mid-lock or throw, right? So we're in the middle of it. Okay, we're in the middle of it, right? It's actually occurring. To most people, it's happening, and so therefore they just prep for ukemi, right? Wasting an opportunity. There is this. There's a tactile timing window, right? That if it's there and I sense it at the right time, I can act. Right? Again, when I go into this full teaching of Nichigeki that I got with the base model and then these timelines, these waza that are actually dotted dots on different points in time to survive it, everything changes. Okay. Then we have airborne, right? So we're either airborne or we're being collapsed to the ground. Either way, right? There's a moment of lack of control. Okay. So we can call it airborne. We can call it loss of control. Not on him, on us. Okay. Bugsy's going to take you for a ride, right? So here, what we're looking at is ukemi, right? We use their energy. We use the feel of gravity and inertia and things like that to land, not just to save ourselves, to land in a counter position. Okay. Use force, direction, all that kind of stuff, right? To land in a counter position. I just put CP, counter position. Okay. And then there's landing or finish, okay, where the ukemi plays itself out. Kind of, right? This is actually, the ukemi is over or it's ending, right? So this is landing in a counter position, assuming we're in that, there's no good word for it because it's not a submissive position, right? We're in a tactically dominant position from the ground up. Okay? I teach this in defensive combat handgun, right? This guy's really, really fast, or I don't take any chances with it, right? As he draws, I'm going to do a break fall to the ground. I'm going to do tachi nagare. As I draw, right, drop straight down and shoot him this way. Because most people are not accurate high or low off the plane of normal work. Okay? So he's going to miss with a shot or two before his brain retracts, and by then, you get a couple of perforations going on. Okay? Same kind of idea. So here, we're going to escape or reverse the situation before they pin or before they deliver a strike or whatever. Okay? So we're reversing the situation. An example of this is most people know how to do a tachi nagare or tachi nagare, which is the leg comes up, sit down, back is like a rocking chair, rocking, that kind of thing. Tachi nagare all the way over, right, is dropping, doing the roll all the way over, or the zempo, zempo ukemi, right, the forward slapping break fall, right? Most people catch it, they can roll off, or they can catch it, stand back up again, that kind of thing, except that the full version that I was taught by Manaka Sensei is you hit, boom, and as you come back up, your base leg that was holding you, right, or the counterbalancing leg comes through and turns into a front stomp kick, right? So we hit, pivot right back up, but that's not the end of it. We come up and deliver a kick. Okay? Just like coming out of any roll. We come out of the roll unfolding into kamae, or come out of the roll kicking or punching, not come out of the roll and then kick or punch. It's a different timing. Because if he moves into position, or his friend moves into position to meet me as I come out, I can't come out and then go to kamae. I can't come out and then punch or kick. He's going to hit me as I'm coming out. So I have to be coming out, unfolding in kamae, or delivering an attack to disrupt his. It's not the same, right? So let's look at this Nichigeki kind of thing, right? So Nichigeki, the kata that everybody's exposed to, starts here. That's the starting point, right? It's when he steps in to catch me. Yeah. Actually, it starts here. Okay? Right between these 2 points. He grabs and then he shifts in to take it, but before he can break my balance, I disrupt his structure, and then the way the kata works is I step in and counter throw him. Okay? But is there something that we can do here? Yeah, I talked about that, right? Maintaining a proper distance and alignment. Right? It's really difficult for somebody to step in and do seoi-nage or a front throw when you're in a profiled position to them. They have to get their hands on you and try to manipulate you so they can step in front of you. But if the front of you or the back of you is this way, you're just going to have a hard time with that. Okay? Same thing with a tackling takedown. I stay off this plane. Okay? So as he moves in, right, there's actually, what's really cool is that there are actions that are like Nichigeki and some of these other techniques that show up as kata in other lineages. But the kata collectors don't make the connections. They'll just go, well, this one's like that one, except you do this. This one's like that. What's the timeline? Where in the timeline does this happen? Okay? Because there is a version, as somebody steps in to do seoi-nage, as he turns to catch me, right? Or as he steps in and as he's turning. So he's not quite about to take me, right? Nichigeki happens as he's squaring in. So when I drop this, I can shove his hips forward. But if he's farther over to the side, when I do that, he can just, I'm going to hit him and then he can just muscle his way back in, okay? But as he's moving in quickly to catch me. As he moves in, I turn like a door. And he slams himself down on his lungs and his head and things like that, right? And some of you may know the kata name. It doesn't matter. It's one of the waza that I was introduced to for Nichigeki as a preemptive, not the pre-contact. He has me this way, right? Pre-contact, he's not touching me yet. Okay? So that's where as he comes in to take me, to catch me, I shift things. So he either misses or barely has a hold of anything, and he's now overextended. Right? So, but most people don't see that as escaping the lock or hold because their head is stuck on until the lock, hold, or throw is there. What do I do? Because that's not the same thing. Yeah, it is. If I prevent it from happening, then I have beaten the technique. What makes a ninja different starts with the way we think about things. Okay? Not thinking trickier or whatever based on the same thinking or same ideas that everybody else has. I'm going to do the same thing everybody else is doing, but better. I'm coming up on 63. it's getting harder and harder to do the same things the same way that 63 or that 23-year-olds do, or 18-year-olds do, or even 30-year-olds do. That's okay. It's okay. Tatsumi Sensei, Takuma Sensei, right? Showed that this was doable well into what a lot of you guys, a lot of you young pups still think it's ancient age. Okay, don't worry about it. You'll get there. Okay, I didn't think I was going to get there either, but here we are. Right. So here, right, I never make it to here because I understand that as he applies that pressure to break my balance this way, that's what he's trying to do. As he moves in, my balance gets pushed and I stiffen up. So as I right myself, he can catch that and throw me. But see, as he's pressing in, if I get out of the way, there's no resistance for him to use to throw me. I know, I've been on that. I've been on the thrower's end. Not pleasant. Okay. Let's see. Kuzushi unbalancing. So we started here with the Nichigeki, right? Midlock. Midlock throw, right? There's another waza where you miss those opportunities and you're up on his back, right? You're not going over yet. There's a difference in time between being brought up onto the back and being sent over. So I'm up on the back, and if that's where I catch, the answer to this is to roll sideways off his back. At the very least, you're going to roll off, break his balance, and you're rolling. He's going to crash into the ground. But more often than not, you got to be really, really careful with this stuff when you practice in the dojo. When you roll off, because of where he will be, your body will snap his leg sideways. It'll come down and do one of those cool little Joe Theismann is what we call it, right? So we can catch there. If we are airborne, most people would just roll. The other waza is as we go over the shoulder, if that's where the head picks up the thing, yep, we're going to roll, but I'm going to tuck tight and roll down his torso. And what ends up happening is it's a kuruma. He ends up being my mat when I hit the ground. I don't hit the ground, I hit him, and then I roll off of him. It becomes a counterattack. The ukemi, ukemi's not a loss. Because if I allow myself to be thrown, he can move in, pin me. If I allow myself to be thrown, he can chase me down and be ready when I come back up and out of it. Right? This is in his mind, on the back and coming over, oh, shit. Where's your mind when you do the throws? Got him. Yep. You got me right where I want you. Perfect. Okay? And yes, I didn't stutter. I meant that exactly the way I said it. Okay. And then the landing finish here is if I do have to, like I miss everything and I've got to do ukemi, then I can either do a form of ukemi where when I land and roll, I don't just do one roll and try to get up. I roll twice, or I roll and shift my hand and arm, shifting my shoulder. And so I break the roll, hooks around. So if he's chasing me to keep up, it changes direction. Or a better one is as I go over, he still has me, right? He's under. He's got a hold of things, right? Pin him to me, depending on the throw that's being done, right? Pin or I hold on. So when my body rolls over, I tug back and it spins me around so that my heels are pointing right at him and I go right into attacking his legs. Right? So different points in time. Right? Different points in time. Each of these stages contains different escape principles. Right? Your job is not to memorize one counter, but to know where you are in the timeline so the right move is obvious. In the scrolls of the Takagi Yoshoryu, there is the secret to always having the right technique at the right time. And that secret is never do a technique that's not already working. So how do we do that? Well, if we're trying to do it, we're doing it left brain. Left brain will always be late at full speed. always. Okay, I have to do. This is where soft training can come in, all that kind of stuff, and I have to be able to feel my way through, so I intuitively know where I am when chaos is happening, when shit's whatever, right? Because while I could do any one of these, the potential or the possibility doesn't happen until my brain realizes where I am. And that might be he's moving in. It might be he's trying to maneuver. It might be I'm already on his back, right? So there's a right answer to each position and place in time. But just trying to memorize or collect kata or write down all the henka and stuff like that, this is not passing an academic test in school. Okay? As my teachers, several teachers, Nagata Sensei, Manaka Sensei, Shoshi Bud Malmstrom, Hatsumi Sensei at certain times, right? They remind us of what the consequences of failure are in this form, in real Budo. The consequences are your family better look fucking good in black. Or you better be able to endure all the shame and guilt because things didn't work out and your wife or your kids or somebody that you're trying to protect got killed, crippled, whatever. Right? I know. It's not nice. That's why we train. Right? So remember that all these things, they're all points in a technique, points in time. They're all points of possibility. Okay? So speaking of Bud Malmstrom, right? One of the lessons that he gave us was instead of buying into the BS, right, that a technique or a move won't work. You see it all over the internet, right? This shit wouldn't work in a real fight, right? Meanwhile, I've done it half a dozen or a dozen times against really bad people in a really bad situation. But according to know-it-all, that would never work. No, it would never work for you, right? So we need to understand the truth that if you don't put it in as an option, if you don't put the responses in at the different points, it'll never come out. Okay? You may not be able to do any given technique because of situation, timing, setup, or whatever. But if you never learn it, you never train it, right? And you don't get it into your options bank, it'll never work because it will never come out. You'll never think of it. You won't feel it. It's not a possibility. It's a possibility within the context of training, but it's not a possibility for the person who either doesn't believe it can work, thinks all this shit is hokey, or never bothers to train consistently to get it into muscle memory. So in that case, you're absolutely right. Okay? But there's a difference between a technique not working in a fight and somebody not understanding it or being able to make it work in a fight. So I don't get into pissing contests with these people. Yeah. So instead of making the mistake most make of how to get out of the fully applied technique, understand how many opportunities you have to escape it before you ever get to that point. Right? I mentioned this earlier, right? This was another one of those, he used to call them Buddhisms instead of Buddhisms, right? They were these little Bud Malmstrom sayings that we would get. As a matter of fact, we had a deck of cards that were these common things that he would always say, right? Things like, if you die during training, we split your gear. Gear's expensive, right? So, some idiot would look at him. It always happens, right? When we do a demonstration or something, there's always somebody that comes up afterwards that either has to tell me how good they are because they beat up somebody or their favorite technique is. But about half the time, we get somebody that comes up and goes, well, that shit's all great and everything, but I got a technique you can't get out of. So his response that we all kind of leaned into when the person says, I got a technique you can't get out of, we go, really? Yeah, I got a technique you can't get me in. Okay, it's very different, right? So this is also why our curriculum is structured intentionally in the way it is and not necessarily the way it's done in Japan or whatever, right? Because I have to look at because in Japan is relatively safe. right? Unless you're hanging out in a Yakuza controlled area and you're doing dumb shit, Japan is exceedingly safe compared to other places in the world. Okay? So I have to focus on not only teaching people moves, but giving them the moves that will benefit them where they are, where they can do it quickly and easily, not just based on coordination and agility and things like that, but also what they're ready for, what they understand. Are they going to be late in timing? Whatever. Okay. So again, our curriculum is intentionally structured. It's not just randomly thrown together. At this rank, your work. Okay, you get to be that Q level. At this, okay, you can be a Shodan or whatever. No, no. Okay. So here's the way this works for us, based on this timeline. Apologize, we're right near a train thing. If you couldn't tell. Okay. So for beginners job is to survive the actual lock or throw. So we give them ukemi, right? They are here. Okay? Before they know it, the lock's on or they're being taken, and their job is to neutralize the force or effect and at least get to a position where they can be like, Okay? So don't get broken more when someone's trying to break you. Okay? For intermediate students, I move them to the other end of the paradigm because now they've got a better handle on kamae, positioning, controlling the kukan, seeing things as they're happening, right? They're less likely to be caught off guard, right? But if an intermediate gets caught off guard, he already has that as the backup, right? We teach people to roll and break fall out of lock holds and throws first because that is our default backup if everything else fails. So you get that first. Intermediates go to the other end of the line and learn to start neutralizing as he moves in, or they learn the Nichigeki to jam it up so he can't do it to begin with. See? I got a move you can't get out of. Really? You got to get me in it first. Huh? So there's that. And then the advanced students, right? So they're learning to interrupt, right? Preempt, those kind of things, right? They're at the front end. Here. They're here. Okay? Advanced people? Advanced people now are adaptive because they should be more body aware, more intuitive in their movement, able to feel their way through better. Okay? So they get escape mid-lock, or if they get to here, it's possible, no matter what the belt rank is, right? There's something on the tail end. They have to take ukemi, then it becomes proactive ukemi and not responsive to just not break. The ukemi becomes a counterattack, right? So they are here and here. Okay? So mid-lock throw, and ukemi, see, starting in same place, ukemi as counterattack. This is strategic thinking. This is what the past masters passed down, not just a list of techniques. Okay? So, again, if you're still trying to fight the lock, you're in beginner mode. I don't give a shit what the color of the belt rank is. Not my words. Hatsumi Sensei's words, Nagato Sensei's words, Manaka Sensei's words. Okay? Beginner mind in this context is not the same as skill proficiency with the technique in the dojo. If that's where somebody is stuck, no matter what their belt rank is, no matter what the number is. And again, these are all hard pills to swallow. I get it. I had to swallow them. They're fucking ginormous. Your neck will feel it. Right? Nobody likes to hear that, you're misunderstanding things or you're not as good as you think you are or whatever. But if we're wise or trying to be wise, we will accept that somebody better than me is pointing out that I'm not as good as I think I am, and they're not meaning it in a damaging way. It's coming from love, and it's a signal that I need to fix it. There's certain skills and abilities and capabilities that I have to get so that that comes off the table. Right? If you're reversing during the entry, right, you finally started to see the fight before it happens. Okay. The advanced stuff is shit happens, and I need to use that. I need to flip it on, like the yin yang, right? He's proactively throwing me. I'm in the passive position, and in an instant, I can flip it in the middle of the chaos. Right? Advanced is not, I can do my techniques better and faster and correctly. Right? So the hard truth that ninja teach, right? I get asked this a lot. Okay, Sensei, what if you can't escape? Right? What if he gets the damn thing on you? Right? What if you can't escape? And here's the old school answer. I heard this from Hatsumi Sensei when I was still a white belt, and I thought he was either bullshitting people or I thought, man, you gotta have guts, like, right? Cojones, right? The old school answer is, then I break my body part and finish him so I can survive, because I can get repaired later. I intentionally break things because that immediately frees me up. He can't lock a joint that can't be locked. Does it hurt? Yeah, that's where Nintai comes in again. Enduring the unendurable. Okay? Because we have to be able to stress inoculate ourselves to the point where when that shit happens, we don't pass out. Okay? And I'm not on a pedestal here. I have been kicked to where a bone has been shattered and had to function 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Then getting out of that situation, be transported to for medical help. Right? All kinds of things. Just because it happens doesn't mean it relieves us of our responsibility to keep going. Right? Okay. So now, if I can't get out, and even breaking myself doesn't change anything, go right back to what I said earlier. Can't win everything. Okay? So this is not macho. This is not reckless. Okay? This is mission first reality. This is survival first reality. Okay? Real Ninjutsu prepares you for every option, even the brutal ones. Okay? And that's exactly why we develop better timing, better tactile awareness, emotional endurance, those kind of things, right? It's also why we use weapons. Hatsumi Sensei has also said, I love it when people pass the memes around, right? Great. Are you changing your training to make sure that you can live up to that quote? Because he wasn't just wasting air. Okay. And one of those things was, in a real fight, in a life or death situation, anything is possible. So we must be able to use weapons. So when most people think that the thing is unescapable and I have to tap out or he's going to beat or kill me or whatever, they forget that you might be able to grab a fucking handful of, he's got you with one. Might be able to grab a handful of grass or rocks or whatever, throw it in his eyes. That response creates some space and time, right? Warriors always carry blades. I carry a clip knife, right? If I can get to it, he has me in a lock, click, he'll let go. And sometimes I don't even have to cut him. Just going click, let go. Right? So, again, if you're thinking that if he gets the lock on you and you can't escape and it's all over, right? And you don't consider weapons use, consider weapons use. Okay? Because that very simple thing, right? And that thing be going click, let go. That is escaping the lock. No, you made him let go. You can split hairs all you want. Did a moment ago, he had me in a lock and I couldn't move, and now click, I'm not in a lock. I have effectively escaped the lock. Most people keep thinking about dumbass martial arts tricky moves instead of strategic thinking. Right? In love and war, all is fair. Right? We say this shit, but we never really listen to it. Right? This is about, right? And the ninja doesn't use, right? Chikara kurabe, direct brute force. Ninja, if the ninja is using this, one of two things is going on. Okay? Either it's kyojitsu tenkan, and he's convincing you that one thing is real, and by the time you get there, it's going to change. Or he's the bait. And the real threat for you is coming from a different direction. Okay? So now let me say, with the weapon thing or the breaking yourself thing or whatever, if you felt resistance to those answers, right, stay with this training because it gets worse than that. Okay? It's not about loving pain. This is not about being a sadist, right? It's about being undefeatable, right? It's about having not just it's not about undefeatable, indestructible kind of thing. It's about being undefeatable through options and strategic thinking, not brute force. Most people think about brute force and outmaneuvering somebody physically, when in ninjutsu, the primary skill is that nobody can outmaneuver you here and here. Heart, head. They can't outthink you. They can never see as many options as you see. So they can't protect everything. They can't do anything to you, right? If I know that he can't do anything to me, punch, grab, kick, whatever, right, without simultaneously giving me something. That's what uke-uchi and uke-nagashi is all about, right? He can't try to punch me without sacrificing his arm as a target for me. It's not what we do. It's how we think about it that drives what we do. It's not the same. Okay? All right. So we will be taking a look at this much more deeply from the perspective of wrist grabs, because I can't cover all things during the Friday masterclass. There's a URL for it. You can go, you can get signed up. We're going to do wrist locks like yakute, takiori, those kind of things. And we're going to take a look at escapes on different points in the timeline so that folks have more of those things. Okay. And then again, if you want any direct coaching or anything like that, you can either don't leave a comment. Never mind. It would be best if you send an email to warriorc@warrior-concepts-online.com. Just rewind and play that again. warriorc@warrior-concepts-online.com. Put call request in the subject line and tell me you want to get on a Zoom coaching call. I do the first one's complimentary. If nothing, we're going to talk about your training, your goals. If you want to talk about programs, we can see if we're even a good fit, teacher-student. But at the very minimum, you're going to walk away with some very usable next step, evolutionary kind of things. How do I take certain things to the next level? So this is not a sales pitch. It's not a whatever. Okay? I really do want to help folks. Okay. So send that to me. Let me know you want to do it. I'll respond with probably some questions. There's a whole process we go through just to make sure that somebody's not yanking my chain and whatever, right? And then we'll set up a coaching call, right? Either way, right? Drop a comment on whatever platform you're on. Drop a comment letting me know what your biggest takeaway was, right? In this particular training, right? And then, I look forward to training with you again soon. So if I don't see you for the Friday call, don't forget we just started watch parties for things, starting with Kuden, the podcast and whatnot. So normally that's Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. I know there's lots of people around the world that time doesn't work out, or because of the work schedule or whatever, it just doesn't work out. So now we are doing follow-up watch parties. There's one tomorrow at noon Eastern, and there's one on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. that should adjust for 90% of the planet. Okay. At some point, if people are interested in it, I can do these and I know they're all recorded and they all stay in certain places, and everybody means well, or they plan on catching up. Life gets in the way and they forget. Right? I got people watching. I just found out that they liked things that were 15 episodes ago, a year ago, whatever. Okay. Now, that by its very nature makes it impossible for them to get in on the Friday training, even if they wanted to. So we're trying to make things a little bit more adjustable. Okay. So either way, drop a comment, right? Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. As always, right? Stay safe, train smart, and remember, there's no such thing as an unbeatable technique. If it really is perfect and unbeatable, you're dead. There's nothing you can do anyway. Okay. But 99.2% of the time, no such thing as an unbeatable technique. There's only untrained logic, timing, and options. Flip that script, less things become unbeatable. Okay? That's it. I'll talk to you.